So your boy is back, and it's been about a week or so as of this recording since I've had a chance to have a visit with you. I apologize, but last weekend was a storm weekend here, so most of that was spent doing things like snow shoveling, and if you've never experienced that, I don't advise it. It's not a big pile of fun. And then the early part of this week was a lot of early mornings and late evenings at my day job. So such is life. But we're back here and we're gonna do something hopefully a little bit interesting. I got recently called out to do a tag challenge. It's a survey of about 11 questions, and we're gonna go through that, and hopefully you'll get a little bit of insight about me and kind of how my mind works. I've done things like this a few times before, interviews and whatnot, so this should be a little bit of fun. Stick around because it's gonna be the focus of the latest GotBot True review. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, Dennis Moulton, aka GotBot. As always, please like, comment, share. Most importantly now, I'm going to say please hit that subscribe button, stick around, join the community, have your say, share your thoughts, let me know, what's going on in your world. Check out Machinery of Man, The Everything Factor, and me everywhere. Now, I mentioned that we're going to do the tag challenge, but before we get to that, I want to do a few shout-outs. First, to Dolcar Toys and Stuff. Dolcar has 2 Ks. He's the one who kind of led me to doing this today. At the end of this, I'm gonna call out a few other people, and hopefully they'll follow suit and do the same thing and let us learn a little bit more about them as well. I want to give a few shout-outs here to Blue Pie, Mark, Ben_it_soccer, and Cruiser Vlogs. So there you go, guys. What can I say? Thanks for the support. It is beyond appreciated. Now, I have no script for this. I haven't even given the questions any thought. We're just gonna fly through them and see what happens. We'll see what happens. I should mention that this was started by Nathan Simmons, and among the people that he kind of put on to doing this was Dolcar, and of course he put me on to doing this. So why not? Why not play the game a little bit here? Alright, so enough wasting time. Let's jump into the questions. Number 1, what is your favorite figure in your collection? It has to be this guy up here, the white and black guy. You can't really see him. It is, of course, the Generations Titan Class Metroplex, and how couldn't he be my absolute favorite? First, I never ever get tired of looking at the dude on the shelf. He always has a presence and a stature, but come on, he's 2 feet tall and turns into a city. What's not to like? I looked at him in full way back in episode 24. And the second question is, what's the most expensive figure in your collection? Well, that's going to be a tie between the Titans Return Fortress Maximus and the Titans Return Trypticon. Both Titan class figures. Again, they are enormous, well, I'm going to say 2 feet tall, but really, Trypticon is, I think, 19 inches, something like that. But, again, they turn into bases, cities, they're enormous. I could kind of justify a higher price tag for those guys, and they were each about 230 Canadian when I bought them when they first came out. And I don't regret it because I bought a city. That's the way I look at it. Or I bought a base. That's also possibly the way I look at it. So I can sort of justify the cost. I looked at Fortress Maximus kind of in 3 parts. Way back in episodes 116, 117, and 118. One was an unboxing and an initial reaction. The next one was the actual full review. And the third one was kind of a comparison and an ultimate base mode with Metroplex, at least at the time. As for Trypticon, I looked at him in full back in episode 300, and I even done a fun little stop motion with the guy looking at him trying out for the Dinobots team. You can see how that worked out as well. On to number 3. which is kind of a two-part question. It's what's the worst figure in your collection and how many do you have? In terms of how many I have never really counted, but between myself, the Scraplets, and a couple that Starscream girlfriend herself owns, based on the number of reviews I have done and what's kind of left to do and what's sort of upcoming, I would say conservatively there's about 350, 375-ish or so in my collection, our collection, if you will. I think that's kind of how you know it's a passion, when you put the time and the effort into building something substantial. As for the one that I think is the worst, bar none, the figure that I gave the worst grade to that I've ever given would have to be that deluxe class Universe Galvatron. That thing is an absolute train wreck. Number 4 is, what's the best and worst place to find TFs? I live in Canada, so up here we're a lot more limited. I would say that the best place for kind of regular mainline figures is probably regular retail at Walmart, because they tend, at least in my neck of the woods, they tend to get new waves, new product first, usually. However, when possible, I do try to get things from Toys R Us, which, you know, tends to kind of be behind the 8 ball, but they do get a lot of exclusives. And with all of the upheaval with that company recently, I'm really hoping that Toys R Us Canada can kind of, you know, keep their head above water, because we don't have a whole lot of buying options up here. I sort of addressed the Toys R Us problems kind of before the most recent news, but I looked at that in episode 353 and kind of what it means for collectors, especially collectors here in Canada. I find there's not so much the thrift store, but there's a thrift store called Value Village here, and I've gotten a lot of great deals there. A lot of times, though, you get figures that are incomplete, and that's okay, especially if you don't mind either finding the pieces, or you can live without those pieces, or you don't mind doing a bit of custom work. Things, for example, like Beast Wars Depth Charge and Rampage that I got pretty recently and reviewed here on the channel. I've gotten a couple of things at conventions. I know a couple of local sellers, Buddy Toe Collectibles, JJ's Fun Stop. They've been pretty good to me. And in the early days of Titan's Return, specifically Titan's Return Wave 2, the Voyagers, most notably, I got at another local hobby shop, Downtown Comics. So it's sort of all over the place, but kind of the first go-to is the most major retail chain that we have here in the country. That being said, I've also gotten some good luck online, places like eBay. I've gotten some pretty great deals from Robot Kingdom, TF Source, ages 3 and up I enjoy. So it all kind of depends. It comes from everywhere. In terms of the worst place to get figures, another chain that we have, Winners, used to be pretty decent, and now and then they will sometimes score something worthwhile. I did hear of them getting Octone and Blitzwing from the Titans Return line, but I didn't see it personally. I also heard of them getting the RID pack with Bumblebee and the Voyager Grimlock, but again, I did not see it myself. Generally, I don't find them great. Usually it's things like they might have a few like mini-cons kicking around, something like that. However, I did get G-Axis from them. It's also where I found the Generations, Cliff Jumper, Acid Storm, and Nemesis Prime, and they were the only place here that had them, oddly. Oh, and Gears. Marshall's isn't good. I used to really enjoy Target when it was here, doing its foray for a couple of years, but of course that was riddled with a lot of problems, and that's unfortunate because it was nice to have that option. And when Combiner Wars started back in 2015, I got all of Wave 1 from them first, so I really enjoyed it at the time. How times change indeed. Number 5 is, what figure do I want most? I don't know if that means produced or not produced. If it's not produced, then it's got to be Scorponok. We need a Titan class Scorponok. Come on, people. If it's produced, then I would say I'm really looking forward to Wei Jiang's version of Omega Supreme, Ultima Guard, I think it's going to be called. And this one's going to probably sound strange, but going back in time a little bit, I'd really like to have the Universe Classics Deluxe class Smokescreen, because he's the only one of the Datsun trio that I don't have. And I've never really seen anywhere, not for a reasonable price anyway. Number 6 kind of falls into this same realm, because it's what figure would you like to see produced? Well, I already mentioned that we need a Titan class Scorponok. And you have some great kind of third-party offerings, like Pandemus is pretty impressive, but kind of an official G1 inspired Titan class Scorponok would be fantastic. A few years ago we did get that kind of huge Action Master, I think it was 22-inch version, that was like $600 US. Not really an option in my books. Dolkar himself pointed out that he'd love to see a 3 or 4 foot tall Unicron. Kind of a massive Titan. I don't even know where you'd put that thing, Dolkar. If you have the space for it, my friend, I applaud you, but I don't think I'd be in for it. Now, you said that you'd even spend up to, I believe, $2,000. Not me. I got my Unicron for $67, and that's good enough for me. But to each their own, and I can certainly see the argument for it and why people would love to see it. I will say this, though. The thing, while it would probably have a very small niche market and would probably be very expensive, would look absolutely amazing. No doubt in my mind about that at all. What do you guys think? And the next one is very apropos right now. It's thoughts about KOs. Now, we all know that there are products in this world that are always knocked off. From purses, to clothing lines, to, of course, Transformers. And I don't have many KOs. I do have the Kubian Bao Nemesis Prime, and I looked at him a while ago, based on the Age of Extinction Evasion Mode Optimus. I love that thing, and it has die-cast in it. I think it's actually better than the Evasion Mode Optimus. In episode 371, not long ago, I actually asked the question whether or not KOs are changing the face of third-party toys. So I've kind of given all my thoughts there, but the bottom line is this. There are companies that do KOs very, very well. Wei Jiang, Kubian Bao are a couple that really come to mind. And there are others. And there are ones that do KOs poorly. Now, I have a couple of Beast Wars KOs that I got at a dollar store. I even have an animated Optimus that I looked at in my very first review ever that I actually like, and I got the thing for $2. So I think KOs can have a place if they're made all right. I've looked at some KOs from Tasaka Tomy for the Masterpiece line, and they're pretty great for a fraction of the price. Here's the thing. I believe that KOs probably kind of keep certain prices in check because they are a more affordable option. However, there is a moral question there of whether or not you should support that, because it's in essence stealing intellectual property. They don't have the same costs for planning and engineering because that stuff is already done. If you're on a budget, however, it is a great way to kind of at least get in the game. Maybe not the best way, but it is a way for you to fill niches and needs in your collection. I think KO has a place. I don't think it should be the first thing that you go to. Whenever I can, I certainly try to support official product. If there is a space in my collection to be filled, I next try to look at third-party options. And I kind of go to a KO last. In terms of the Nemesis Prime, for example, I would absolutely love to have that Wonderfest exclusive. But at the time that I bought the KO, that thing really wasn't something I could find anywhere online, and I have since. And it goes for a rather hefty price tag compared to the $15 that I spent on the KO. Sometimes maybe it's even okay to have a KO if your plan is to replace it with the official product. There is also an option. That's a complicated question. I think they have a place, and I think some KO companies are doing the smart thing. And while they've made great profits off of what they've done as knockoffs, some of them, like Wei Jiang, for example, are starting to do their own molds. And that's sort of transitioning them into third party. But they could still do them for an affordable price, probably because they can use the profits that they've already made to cushion things like having to do engineering. Or a company like Open and Play, which some people argue is third party, some people argue is KO. I tend to call them third party, but I get the argument there for KO because a lot of their engineering is from ideas that are borrowed from figures that are already out, officially and unofficially. Look at Big Cannon, for example. That's so very heavily influenced by the Titans Return Galvatron. Nevertheless, if you're into the Masterpiece line and you need an affordable option, they are there and might be able to fill that need for you. But of course, they aren't for everybody. Like I said, KOs have a place. I just don't think it should be the first thing that people go to. Of course, that is but my humble opinion, and yours is certainly able to be different. Perhaps your entire collection is made up of KOs, and that's cool too, if it works for you. Number 8 is a common question. Who is your favorite Transformers character? For me, it's always been Wheeljack, and I can't even tell you why. I think I kind of like the light things that come out from the side of his head that light up blue when he talks. I don't know, I always thought that his head sculpt looked so cool. It looked alien, but it worked, man. And his alt mode is just so cool. His color scheme is great. The guy builds things, he's creative. A lot of them blow up, but hey, you don't worry about that. That's okay, because it is, always unpredictable if something's gonna work or not. Plus, come on, the guy had a huge hand in creating the Dinobots, and who doesn't love a little Grimlock in their life? And 9 is another common question. What's your favorite Transformers show? Mine, of course, would be G1. I absolutely love it. I do think, however, that others have strengths. Beast Wars was a lot more mature, and so well written for the most part, though it did have lags at times. Then we have Transformers Prime, perhaps the most brilliantly written series. It had excellent stories. It was mature. You could really kind of get into the characters. Even Soundwave, who I don't think ever said a word. He might have said, Soundwave superior or Autobots inferior in one episode, but that's about it. But still, he was always so menacing and there. And you could so get into the character. It was great storytelling. Some at its finest. I think that the series that gets the least amount of recognition, that really deserves it, however, is Transformers Animated. That was a great series that ended long before its time, in my humble opinion, and their version of Megatron was so menacing and had such a great voice. I absolutely loved it. But in terms of my favorite show, what can I say? I'm a G1 purist in that regard. Not because it's the best written, not because it's the greatest, but because it's what I liked when I was 5. I'm still kind of like I'm 5. Number 10, perhaps the most controversial question, would be, do you love or hate the movies? The 86 movie I absolutely love. I thought it was well done, even though it gave me my largest childhood trauma when we had the death of Optimus Prime. Thankfully, in Season 3, we had the return of Optimus Prime. Spoilers, I guess, if you've never seen G1 Season 3. In terms of the kind of more popularized ones over the last 10 years, the ones commonly called the Bayverse movies, I don't have an axe to grind there. I like them for what they are. You don't have to overthink it. They're great popcorn movies. They brought Transformers back to mainstream, back to the forefront. Even as a child, when I heard about the 86 movie coming out, I wondered then, wow, what will these huge robots look like, on the big screen, when they look real? And the truth is, when it came out and it was still animated, I was a little bit disappointed, because I was kind of like, it's just a fancy cartoon. I still love it, but it's just a fancy cartoon. when 2007 came and the first movie came out, we finally got to see what they would be like in our world. Whether the designs are heavily stylized, and of course they are. We all know that the Decepticons are very spiky and alien looking, while the Autobots, still kind of spiky and edgy, have enough familiar tones with some characters, most notably Optimus Prime, that, you know what, for me it kind of really did bring back that nostalgia. It also helped that Optimus's voice was indeed the great Peter Cullen. Again, I like it for what it was. Revenge of the Fallen, a lot of people say it was awful. I thought it was great. I enjoyed it. It was great to have the Fallen, you know, a kind of a classic character in the lore, finally get somewhat of a fleshed out, popularized backstory. I didn't mind Dark of the Moon either. I love Leonard Nimoy, and Sentinel Prime was a great, engaging character. And of course we had that plot twist where he turned, was the bad guy. Age of Extinction, I wish we had more Dinobots. It is what it is. The Last Night, I think that by The Last Night, a lot of things in terms of the lore had become kind of so mixed up and mashed up that it was difficult to sort of retcon a lot of things. And a lot of people have pointed out holes like, hey, if this is happening, then why did they ever bother to do this? Who cares about the Allspark if Unicron is in the planet Earth? And, you know, if Quintessons created us, then why would you even care about the Allspark? We were built, not created. And of course the argument could be made, hey, the Quintessons didn't create the Transformers. They just took advantage of a burgeoning race that was, you know, beginning to grow and, you know, kind of manipulate them into believing that they had been built rather than created. There's a whole lot of gaps there. I get it. I understand it, and I get why some people are really put off by it. But I enjoy it for what it is. I can sit back, I can have a snack, and I can kind of turn my brain off for a little bit and just enjoy giant robots fighting for their cause, whether that cause is, you know, good or bad. It's great. And having the great Frank Welker kind of come back and voice Megatron in the last couple of films, you know what, again, that had great nostalgic feel for me. So I like them for what they are. They're not the apex of storytelling. They're certainly not the apex of movie going. But hey, they're just plain fun. At least they were for me. By the way, the Bumblebee film that's coming up, I don't really like Bumblebee. I'm done. I'm so done with Bumblebee. But I respect the fact that he is kind of one of those faces of the franchise, and that's exactly why he's getting this movie. And hopefully, it will actually pan out to be a good one. New creative direction. A new look. Fewer bots, yes, but an opportunity to kind of help flesh out characters more. I really do hope that we sort of see Cliffjumper and Barricade in it, though. I'm not going to pretend that I'm not looking forward to that. But we will see what happens. Hopefully it kind of turns the whole franchise around, kind of sets a pace for the reboot, and it'll be something that fans can kind of dig their teeth into. I do think that having be a Volkswagen Bug is the best thing to do, because for most of us hardcore fans, that's what he will always be. Although there's a whole generation of fans now that would say the dude is a Camaro, and I certainly see the argument for it because he's had enough history now as that type of vehicle. Whoa, I really kind of went off on a tangent there, didn't I? To answer the question, quite easily, simply put, I enjoy them for what they are and they're fun, but I understand why people have the criticisms that they do. And the last question, did Hot Rod get Optimus killed in the '86 movie? Yeah, totally, completely. Look, Cup told the guy to stay out of it. This is Prime's fight, lad. And he couldn't listen. Young guy he couldn't listen, you know. He was told to do something and he just couldn't listen. He had to get involved, didn't he? He had to go in and try and get his moment in the sun, his 15 minutes of fame with the big boys, and he just couldn't do it, got in the way, and that's exactly what allowed Megatron to shoot Optimus. And then the young guy becomes the leader, becomes the next Matrix bearer? I don't know. I don't get it. A lot of people love Hot Rod, love Rodimus Prime. I think it was a young kid, impetuous, and once he got involved, he was thrown into a role of responsibility that he just wasn't ready for. He just wasn't mature enough for it, in my humble opinion. Of course, yours may very well be different. And perhaps you'll say, no, you know, Hot Rod was trying to help. And yeah, he was trying to help. It just didn't work out that way, as we all know now. So for me, I look at it and say, he was told to stay out of it. Maybe the outcome would have been the same. Maybe it would have been different. I certainly don't know. But I know this, that him getting involved when he did certainly didn't help the cause. Anyway, there you go. There are my answers to the 11 questions of the tag challenge. You know, because you're supposed to kind of pass this on forward, I'm going to do that now, and hopefully one or more of the people that I'm going to say here will, you know, have some fun with this and let us know what they think are the appropriate answers for them to these questions. So I'm going to kind of pass this along, tag this for good buddy of the channel, Nortalica. By the way, Carl, shout out to you. I see that you've jumped on board. It is beyond appreciated because we all know that Carl is epic, absolutely epic. And if you don't know Carl, then check out Nortalica and you'll learn all about one of the most dynamic characters that I've ever encountered in my life. I'm also going to shout out here in terms of challenging people to do this survey. Good friend of the channel, Masterfire, Tomb of Macula, Seaspray 717, Cardboard Bots, E4I Reviews, and just for fun, let's also throw in Patriot Prime Reviews. All great channels, great guys. I would say check them all out. You know, I love all those guys for different reasons. Hopefully one or more of them will see this and kind of jump on and play the game with us. I certainly hope so. Anyway, and that's my thoughts on all these. And I want to thank you for dropping by, as always, for giving me some of your very valuable time. Let me know your thoughts on these questions and kind of what your answers would be. I'd love to hear from you. Again, I'm going to say hit that subscribe button. Stick with us here. Interesting things coming up, not the least of which is Universal Collision Season 2 that I'm working on right now. And I guess that's about it. The only thing left to say is thanks for giving me some of your extremely valuable time. I know how important it is. I always say that to you, and I always mean it. And I guess I look forward to the next time that you and I get together to have another visit right here inside the videos.